Hello and welcome to the NDTV Dialogues, which we are broadcasting from the Action for India annual forum. And we've got a very exciting panel, really all people who are part of the digital revolution, people who pioneered it, people who are now implementing it, all people with crucial vision for this program, which could very well change India as we know it. And the focus of this address today is, of course, Startup India, Impact Bharat. And I'm very happy to have with us Mr. Amitabh Kant, Mr. Sam Pitroda, Arvind Gupta, Rajeev Gowda, Dilip Modi and Shiv Khemka. Thank you very much for being here. Amitabh Kant, you've had a great beginning into 2016 with the Startup India on the 16th of January. The question being posed this evening is now, what's the impact on Bharat? And I think that really is going to be your key deliverable now as CEO NITI Aayog, as Secretary DIPP, as AK-47, as you're now known, one of the most high-profile bureaucrats of this government. What do you see as the main roadmap ahead to implement this for Bharat, not just about a startup community?
Sonia, I think the key challenge for India is really to grow at rapid rates of 9 to 10% per annum, year after year, for 3 decades or more. And to my mind, it's important that we are able to find solutions for the 1 billion plus population using technology. And India is very uniquely poised. India is uniquely poised because it has over 1 billion mobile, it has over 1 billion Aadhaar accounts now, and it has over 200 million Jan Aadhaar accounts. Now, the important thing is that we must be able to link up mobile, biometrics, and these accounts together to radically reduce the cost of transaction, one. Number two, we must be able to use technology to leapfrog. And India must become the biggest disruptor in terms of innovation, in terms of technology, in terms of design. Unless and until all our young people are not able to make a radical breakthrough in terms of disrupting technology, it'll be very difficult for India to grow at rapid rates of 9 to 10% and find quick solutions for agricultural growth, for social innovation, and a vast range of areas. And to do that, I think we need to make India extremely easy, extremely simple, ensure that there are no compliance issues, just scrap all these rules, regulations, procedures which we've built up over the years, allow many young innovators to fail several times over. They must fail again and again and again to succeed. And therefore, easy entry, easy exit is the key. And the government must keep itself out of all this process of growth.
In fact, Mr. Pitroda is sitting here quietly, but does perhaps what Amitabh Kant just said remind you of a younger Sam Pitroda and those heady days when Mr. Rajeev Gowda, as Prime Minister, had come in with a mandate of over 400 MPs, and it seemed anything was possible. Perhaps a similarity to what it may seem with Prime Minister Modi and 282 MPs today. But you said the bureaucracy held you back. Here's one bureaucrat who's doing the talking and walking the talk. What do you say today when you look at it?
I would say bureaucracy held me back. If that had been the case, we wouldn't have today 1 billion phones. When I came to India, we had 2 million telephones. It used to take 15 years to get a telephone. The fact that we have 1 billion phones today says that we all worked together and we got here. But I think the challenge is very different than what this government thinks, according to me. Let me tell you the basic challenge today, based on my own 30 years with the government. We need process re-engineering. All our processes are old, obsolete, left behind by British Raj. Our bureaucracy has complicated it, and now we are computerizing it.
So basically you're saying you're computerizing all the old British Raj processes. So
Hold on, this time I'm not done yet. Give me 2 more minutes. On top of that, we have every state doing their own thing. So there is no interoperability. There are no standards. Everybody is giving awards to everybody else for doing some great work. We need a common platform, because when we started e-governance 20 years ago, technology was very different. Software was very different. All of a sudden today, we have cloud computing, open source software, low-cost terminals, social networks. So everything we have done is essentially obsolete. We got to redo everything. Nobody is willing to accept that. Why should I have birth certificate which is very different in every state? Police report in one state cannot be read in the second state. 132 million court cases, 32 million court cases pending, not computerized. Police reports, not computerized. Back end is still manual. You go look at RTI. Today, RTI is all manual. What are we talking?
Mr. Kant, do you want to quickly respond to that? Because in that sense, the challenge perhaps is being addressed on the wrong end.
No, actually a lot of radical changes are underway. Vast number of areas actually, which Mr. Pitroda talked about. A huge amount of work has been done in terms of making India an extremely easy and simple place. He's talking about the legacy that has been left behind in the last 68 years. The last 1 year just tried to...
You were a bureaucrat in many of those years. Are you disowning the previous governments you worked for?
No, I've worked, I worked in places like Kerala for many years. I've worked in Government of India. I mean, wherever I've worked, I've always felt that we try and take the country forward in many ways. But, the last 14, 15 months, there's been a certain energy, a certain dynamism, a certain vibrancy, which has tried to make things easy and simple. And I think one of the
He's the Prime Minister, you think can change it?
No, I think there's several things which have been done in terms of business process re-engineering. This is the first time in India that we had a competition among states on 100 points. Every single state competed. I've never seen that kind of energy in terms of sheer competition. This year we are making states compete on 340 issues, out of which 128 relate to small and medium enterprises, another about 100 of them relate to agricultural issues. Just issues relating to how to make India a very easy and simple place. All that I'm saying is that in the last 68 years, we made India a highly over-legislated country. And therefore, you need to do away with a lot of rules, regulation, procedures. And I think that trend of making India simple and easy is right on track.
Do you think Prime Minister Modi can change that? Can he change what you're saying, a legacy of 68 years?
Absolutely.
You're already seeing people saying that the bureaucracy is trapping him, that is pulling him down. Do you think Prime Minister Modi can change that?
You see, what I feel is that this is for the first time that I'm seeing structural transformation being taken forward. And structural transformation in India is not easy. I mean, you're trying to drive direct benefit transfer. You're trying to move away from a subsidy-based regime, which has been the legacy of India, to a regime which is based on productivity and efficiency, which is going to drive total factor productivity.
No, the Prime Minister said targeted subsidies.
Yeah,
he made that point of targeted subsidies.
So when we talk about direct benefit transfers, what are you saying? You are basically saying that your mobile telephone will be the recipient through that, and your Aadhaar account will enable you to get your money right into your bank account. A very, very direct, clear. And look at what has been done in fertilizer case, neem coating of fertilizer, something unique which has been done. So I think a lot of structural transformations are underway, and you'll see a lot of results happening in terms of benefits reaching the right target.
See, the ideas are great. Ideas are great. I am all for it. I am not saying that. Let's not get confused. But the fundamental issue is everything today is in vertical silos. I know it. We know it. It doesn't matter what anybody else says, because they don't know what they're talking about.
But are you being pessimistic? Perhaps
No, I'm not being
it is
pessimistic.
about, as he said, it's the
I'm
first
not being
time he's seen in his career structural transformation.
In a country of 5 billion people where there are 600 million young, you cannot be pessimistic.
So you're excited.
Okay, so that's given. Okay?
You're excited about
Absolutely.
the current government's plan?
Absolutely.
But
because the transformation that is happening today is being forced by technology, by young people. Look at what social network is doing. The point is, you cannot have e-governance and all these programs the way we have been doing it in the past.
You made that dictate. Digital India is actually what's new about it. This is something which Rajeev
Gowda
Gowda
going on for 25 years.
So
that's another thing. This has been going on for 25 years. There are 10,000 software engineers in NIC. Okay? They've been there for God knows how many years. So Digital India is not a new thing. Okay, let's not kid around. You know, saying something that started today is insulting people like us who have been working for 30 years. It is everybody's work. And I'm
Mr.
glad.
Bharat has also been working
But
for
it doesn't
30
matter.
years. Yes.
That's not the issue.
No, I
That's
just
not the
wanted,
issue.
to, I
Issue
just
is-
wanted to say two things. That government always works in continuity, number one. Number two, this is the first time I'm seeing silos really getting broken down. I mean, we work with groups of secretaries. So there's a much greater level of convergence and integration.
Simple. You go look at birth certificate, go look at land record, go look at judiciary, go look at police report. And the day they all make sense and they all standardize, I would be very happy.
Arvind Gupta, come in on that bit, because as I made that comparison earlier, and we talked of a time when Mr. Pitroda was in with Rajeev Gandhi and 400 MPs, now we have Mr. Modi with 282 MPs. There's great expectation around individuals, but when it comes to reality, running India is not about individuals, it's about the team, it's about a system, and who actually wins, who can beat a system. Do you see, and in that sense as a head of technology for the BJP, do you feel there's been enough change when we talk about Impact Bharat? The fact is, rural India, the divide with the droughts, the impact, that gap is widening. Can the focus on startup, innovation actually reduce that gap?
Well, I thought we will do the political talking, but that's happening with our two other panelists. I will wear more of. I'm just kidding. So I'm going to wear a lot more of my tech entrepreneur hat.
Sure.
I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years now, and tech entrepreneur. And I think when people say that these programs existed before, maybe they did. The acceleration has really happened right now. The consumption of Digital India to reach to the last mile that everybody today is talking about it, creating that market for Startup India has happened right now. And that is a vast difference. That every kid on the block today is vying to, and this room I'm sure is no different, is trying to be a startup person, a job creator, rather than job seeker. That transformation is only happens when you have a CEO of the country which is leading startups like this 9 startups, 10 startups here to the Silicon Valley and making them meet the best in the world and talking about it. I think that category of recognition of startups, the category, the recognition that digital and technology can be transformative, both for internal. So coming back to what Mr. Pitroda said, I do want to mention that we, nowhere we ever talked about cloud computing. Cloud was thought of something where data was, and if rain would happen, the cloud would fall down and data will get lost. This was really the truth 3 years ago. Today it's part of our lexicon that we want to create a national cloud.
You cannot lie. You cannot lie.
No.
Time out. NIC, which is government organization, has been building cloud for last 5 years.
The point is, and you yourself said, the two mayors don't make the birth certificate application together. If you make infrastructure which is not being used, I'm going to come to that. UID is something, and as you said, Mr. Kant said that governments worked in continuity. We accepted that UID, and the UID project was taken from 60 crore enrollments to 95 crore or to almost 100 crore, which is a billion enrollments by this current government. It could have been a political messaging by saying that we are going to discontinue UID. We actually embraced it, linked it up with the bank accounts.
Let's not get into politics. Let's talk about technical.
Yeah, so I'm coming to technical only, sir, and I'm saying that the biggest need today you talked about was to, and everybody knows. If you've done business process re-engineering or bad processes, you will get junk in is junk out. And I think a big thing that we talk about over here are consumer applications and social reform. But one of the big things that Startup India did, which nobody is talking about, is that government also wants to be a consumer of innovation and technology. And bigger impacts in that are in the areas of cybersecurity, but also improving the functioning of government departments, breaking those silos using technology. And the government has shown a clear intent of using technology to break those silos, to improve their processes, and many
I agree. I'm actually going to just bring it because I want to regarding the social entrepreneurship,
great.
I'm just going to expand that. The interesting bit is, of course, that the government embraced Aadhaar. Of course, the Prime Minister adjuncted in the election campaign, so I'm glad the continuity was there. I know election campaigins are lots of rhetoric, but he did.
The Prime Minister did not. Some other people did. I must give that.
The Prime Minister had said that he would get rid of Aadhaar.
Talked about in because
I want to ask Rajeev Gowda, because it's interesting you've talked about the CEOs and what's needed. And what's interesting is, let's take Bangalore as an example, and that really was the cradle of our whole info revolution, whether it was Infosys in the 90s after the first stage of liberalization, and even today, whether it's been BJP or Congress government, has actually been irrelevant to the startups, to the people there. They actually hope the government gets out of the way and lets them do their job. So in that sense, it's interesting how all political parties try to claim ownership of the startup revolution. It's actually driven by the youth, as Mr. Pitroda said.
By the youth, by the role models in Silicon Valley, by the role models in Bangalore and other cities who built these enterprises over the years. Not overnight in many cases, but so the whole issue was about being able to think of ourselves as entrepreneurs. And that light bulb went off more than 10, 15 years ago. Now, what has happened is technology is so much more accessible. It's possible through the creation of apps and things of that sort for even much smaller startups to emerge, to shift from the services model, which required scaling and large numbers and big organizations, to product organizations which are nimble, which are creative. So that sort of thing is what we are experiencing today. The challenge and the theme of what we are looking at today is, will all this benefit rural India? Will it build that bridge and make an impact on those who are otherwise left behind? And what I see over the last few years is that, if you look at, even during the last budget and things like that, the government talked about the JAM trinity, right? Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, mobile. Now, Jan Dhan is an extension of financial inclusion, which is what the UPA had been pushing for a long time. And this government has taken it to the next step to give everyone an account. We had focused on every place with 2,000 people having a bank branch, and then correspondence and stuff like that. Aadhaar was a way of ensuring unique ID. And of course, mobile, from Sam Pitroda's intervention many years ago, we've seen a transformation in telecom accessibility. So what we are seeing is continuity. Every government, whether our Karnataka governments or the central government, loves to see this kind of success and to be a part of it.
I think the startup movement, sorry Rajiv, was the Prime Minister was very clear, tell us what not to do, and the government should not be participating in what all not to do.
Well,
I think that was the key message he said.
Let me make one comment here. Panwala is a startup. Don't forget, Panwala is a startup. Grocery shop is a startup. Karyana shop is a startup. Indians have had startups for hundreds of years. We are talking about technology startup, because technology today is such that you can start new things. It is because of where we are in the window of technology. Again, broadband, mobile, smartphones, social networks, cloud computing, low-cost terminals, all of this is making it possible.
But technology also is solving the problems of India. That really the key thing. Dilip Modi, come in here, because we've talked, I think, from the government side, but from the user side, as it were. And when you look at, when you hope whether it's the UPA or the NDA or whatever, the government of Uttar Pradesh or a government of Orissa, when you're looking at it, what would you like the government to do? You're starting social entrepreneurship, apparently in the Prime Minister's constituency in Varanasi. What would you want the government to actually do or not do?
Well, I think, Prime Minister Modi talked about a vision, strategy, policy and programs. I think a lot of what is being discussed about Aadhaar and all these, I think these have provided for the platforms. Now it's important for on-the-ground programs to get executed. So what we would like to see is, India is a country of 600 plus districts. So ultimately, there has to be work happening on the ground. So one of the things that we want to see happen is more and more entrepreneurship action on the ground. So the platforms are available. I think technology is an enabler, but I think one of the big things as I see Startup India is not just only about technology, but also about young people wanting to find solutions in their own communities. So I think one great opportunity that we have is to create programs using these platforms where people, where they live, the problems that they face every day, how can we work with them? How can we bring them more resources where they are and help them find solutions to their own problems? Because if communities work together to find solutions, then the Bharat revolution that we want to see happen will happen. We cannot have just umbrella programs cascading to the ground. It's just providing a platform, but we need each district to have that kind of entrepreneurship, and solutions for their problems.
Exactly, and in Uttar Pradesh, of course, the problems are of power. And Shiv Khemka, I want to ask you this, because I was talking to to a startup head, one of the biggest, and he said, look, from the government, actually what I want is not just the Startup India plan, but I want power, because how do I provide power if I want my startup to run 24 hours? How do I provide transport, roads? That's the kind of thing we want the government to focus on, and perhaps not so much into the nitty-gritty of what our model should be, or the funding, or the tax breaks, etc. When you deal with young people in your global education and leadership forum, what do you find that comparison that a young boy from, say, Varanasi, or from Raebareli, or from anywhere in else, maybe in Bihar, cannot compete with, say, a young person from Bangalore or from Delhi or from the cities, and that really is the gap?
I think, to me, first of all, I'd like to say I think there is a new energy in India. Clearly, globally, it's felt. I'm on the board of Wharton. Half the Wharton board meeting was talking about India last time. Rajeev was at Wharton. Wharton's a center of entrepreneurial kind of energy, and they see India now as something that is starting to rise and starting to move, which is very exciting. However, I think to get the entrepreneurial mindset right is not just about passing a few laws and things like that. I actually believe it's a systemic issue we need to address, starting with the complete re-engineering of the education system in our country. Moving away from rote memorization to creativity, looking at Israel and Startup Nation, what they did there, how they restructured their education system, how they used the IDF to actually incubate massive foment and create a country where failure is accepted, tolerated and welcomed. We talk about entrepreneurship in India when we see our young people actually, and yes, there is some level of excitement by everyone wanting to start companies and so on. But if you ask the vast majority of young people from middle class families, they want to get a government job. They want a safe job. They don't want to take too much risk. So the real issue is, how do you create a mentality to take risk, to fail, to want to achieve things, to create things? And there's no better opportunity than today with technology and with the type of push coming from our government. Of course, the government's role to provide infrastructure, to break down barriers, to make it easy in terms of entry and exit. I think these are fundamental things that the government needs to do. But if we don't get the education system right at its roots, if we don't improve the soil conditions, we're never going to get there. And I think that's really fundamental. I was recently in Davos, sitting with an Israeli gentleman, talking about entrepreneurship. And I said, what makes Israel so different? How do you guys get it right? And he said, let me tell you a joke. He said, an American, a Russian, a Chinese, and an Israeli are sitting together, and someone comes up to them and says, excuse me, what do you think of the meat shortage at the moment? The American says, what is a shortage? The Chinese says, what is an opinion? The Russian says, what is meat?
What does the Indian say?
And the Israeli says, what is excuse me?
Oh no.
So the attitude is, what is excuse me? Let's do it. And that attitude has to be created amongst the young. And that is about re-engineering the education system, and actually then we can help create 1 million jobs a month like we need to do for the next 30 years.